Hey, everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be exploring some ancient wisdom from the book of Deuteronomy, specifically chapter 8.
It's like a pep talk from Moses to the Israelites just before they enter the Promised Land.
Yeah, but it's not just some, dusty history lesson. We're going to be unearthing some timeless principles about gratitude and humility, and even the dangers of success.
Yeah, and we'll see how they can guide us in the 21st century.
Right. Okay, so picture this. You're an Israelite. You spent 40 years wandering in the desert. Talk about testing your patience,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But Moses reminds them, and us, that even in those tough times, God provided everything they needed.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, look, you're about to enter this land flowing with milk and honey, but don't for a second think you got here on your own. This abundance, it's a gift, not a reward for your efforts.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in our own achievements and think, oh, I did this. I'm amazing.
Right.
But this chapter really challenges that mindset.
It does. It's not about, downplaying your accomplishments. It's about acknowledging that there's a bigger picture. We don't operate in a vacuum. There's a force.
Right.
Whether you call it God, the universe, or simply luck,
Yeah.
it plays a role in our success.
I heard a story one time about this lottery winner, and he ended up losing everything because he thought that all this wealth that he had was all due to his own, brilliance. And he didn't acknowledge the role of chance. And so he was not prepared at all for the challenges that came with managing that wealth.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of what Deuteronomy 8 warns against. It's like Moses is saying, hey, when things are going well, be careful.
Yeah.
Don't let prosperity make you arrogant or forget where your blessings come from.
Oh, that's good. So what happens when we forget? What are the dangers of becoming too comfortable?
Well, Deuteronomy 8 calls it following other gods. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean bowing down to idols. It's about anything we put on a pedestal, and we allow it to control our lives.
You mean like money or fame or power?
Exactly, but it can even be more subtle than that. Think about the constant need for validation on social media. We chase those likes and comments, and they become like a modern-day idol that we sacrifice our time and energy and even our self-worth to.
Wow, that's a powerful analogy. It really
Yeah.
brings that ancient concept into a modern context.
It does. And,
Yeah.
and it's not just about external things. We can even turn our own intellect or abilities into idols, becoming so focused on achieving and proving ourselves that we lose sight of what truly matters.
So how do we avoid falling into these traps? How can we stay grounded and connected to what truly matters, especially when things are going well? I'm hooked. Tell me more.
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Well, Deuteronomy 8 doesn't just warn about the pitfalls of prosperity. It also offers a powerful antidote: remembrance.
Remembrance, you mean like looking back on the past?
Yeah, but it's more than just nostalgia. It's about actively cultivating a deep awareness of where your true blessings come from.
So like remembering that our talents are gifts and our opportunities come from a mix of hard work and luck, and that ultimately we're not in complete control.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that there's something larger at play in our lives, a force that sustains and guides us, even when we don't realize it.
Okay, I see how this connects to gratitude. If we remember where our blessings come from, it naturally leads to a feeling of thankfulness.
Right. And gratitude isn't just some feel-good emotion. It's a powerful tool for staying grounded. When we're grateful for what we have, we're less likely to get caught up in chasing after more, more, more.
Yeah, like that saying, wanting what you have is a far greater treasure than having what you want. But how do we actually cultivate this sense of remembrance and gratitude in a practical way?
Deuteronomy 8 uses the word remember over and over again. Remember God, remember your journey, remember where your blessings come from. It's a call to actively incorporate remembrance into our daily lives.
So not just thinking about it once in a while, but actually like building it into our routines.
Exactly. It's about finding practices that work for you. For some people, it might be keeping a gratitude journal, where you write down a few things you're thankful for each day. For others, it might be starting each morning with a moment of reflection, acknowledging the good in your life and recognizing that it's not all due to your own efforts.
I love that idea. It's like setting an intention for the day to be mindful of the blessings, big or small.
And it doesn't have to be complicated. Even small acts of remembrance can make a big difference. Taking a moment to appreciate a beautiful sunset, savoring a delicious meal, expressing thanks to someone who helped you, these are all ways of acknowledging the good in your life and recognizing that it's not all about you.
That's so true. It's about shifting our focus from like what we lack to what we have. from a sense of entitlement to a sense of appreciation. But I'm curious, how does this idea of remembrance connect to the idea of obedience, which is also mentioned in Deuteronomy 8?
That's a great question. And it's where things get even more nuanced. We'll delve into that in just a second.
All right, so we're back, and I'm really curious to explore this connection between remembrance and obedience.
Yeah.
It seems like a bit of a jump going from gratitude journals to, like, following the rules.
It might seem that way at first, but bear with me. In the context of Deuteronomy 8, obedience isn't about, blind rule following or being a goody two-shoes. It's about aligning yourself with a set of principles that lead to a more fulfilling life.
So instead of like obeying God, we can think of it as like living in accordance with values that lead to a good and meaningful life.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Remember those modern day idols we talked about? Things like wealth, fame, or social media validation? Chasing after those things often leads us away from what truly matters.
It's like we get so caught up in the pursuit that we lose sight of our relationships, our values, even our own well-being.
Right. So obedience in this sense is about choosing a different path. It's about aligning our actions with a deeper set of values. Maybe those are spiritual principles, ethical guidelines, or simply the things that you know deep down make you a better person.
So it's not about denying ourselves pleasure or success, but about making sure those things don't become the driving force in our lives.
Precisely. It's about living with intention, making choices that are in line with our values, even when it's hard or inconvenient.
I see how this all ties together now. Remembrance keeps us grounded and grateful, which helps us resist the temptation to chase after those false gods, right?
Yes.
And then obedience in this broader sense guides our actions, so we're living in a way that's aligned with our deepest values.
Yeah, you got it. It's a beautiful cycle that can lead to a life of greater purpose
Yeah.
and fulfillment.
But let's be real for a second. It's not always easy, is it? I
No.
mean, we all slip up. We all get tempted. We all make choices that we regret. What happens then?
That's where grace comes in. Deuteronomy 8 isn't about being perfect. It's about striving to live in a way that honors the gifts we've been given. And when we fall short, as we inevitably will, it's about remembering that we're not alone. There's a force of love and compassion that's always there to guide us back to the path.
That's really encouraging. It takes the pressure off of having to be perfect and
Yeah.
allows us to be human, to make mistakes, and to learn from them.
Absolutely. And ultimately, that's what this deep dive into Deuteronomy 8 is all about. It's about finding tools and insights that can help us live more meaningful, fulfilling, and joyful lives.
So as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge.
Mhm.
What are some modern-day gods that you might be tempted to chase after? What are the things that distract you from your values, your relationships, and your connection to something greater than yourself?
And once you've identified those things, ask yourself, what are some small steps I can take to align my actions with my values? How can I cultivate a deeper sense of remembrance and gratitude in my daily life?
These are really good questions worth pondering, and I encourage you to keep exploring these ideas and see how they can really transform your life. Until next time, keep diving deep.